The deception of weakness. The vast observation deck of the Sarfian flagship Immutable Decree offered an unparalleled view of the stars, but Grand Marshal Krezak found no beauty in them. His attention was fixed on the small blue-green planet, displayed on the massive holographic projection dominating the center of the room. Earth, the homeworld of the humans. Such an unremarkable species, he muttered, running a clawed hand along the edge of his ceremonial armor. How they've survived this long in the galaxy is beyond comprehension. Admiral Thex, his second-in-command, approached with practiced caution. The human ambassador's shuttle has requested docking permission, Grand Marshal. Let them come, Krezak said, mandibles clicking with anticipation. It will change nothing. The Sarfian Empire had expanded across 3 spiral arms over the past millennium, assimilating or destroying 47 species in their path. Humans were merely the 48th obstacle, and a minor one at that. In the century since humans had joined the Galactic Confederation, they had maintained a minimal military presence, focusing instead on trade, cultural exchange, and scientific research. Their military technology was generations behind the Sarfian war machine. When the human shuttle docked with the Immutable Decree, the bridge crew watched the security feed with mild curiosity. The human delegation consisted of just 3 individuals: 2 guards in simple blue uniforms, and a woman with dark skin and silver-shot hair, dressed in a formal gray diplomatic suit, Commander Ilara Voss. Admiral Thex read from his datapad. Earth's foremost diplomatic envoy. No significant military background. Krezak flared his throat sack in amusement. They send diplomats to answer a war declaration. Pitiful. 20 minutes later, Commander Ilara Voss stood before the Sarfian War Council, showing no sign of intimidation despite being surrounded by the most fearsome military leaders in the known galaxy. Grand Marshal Krezak, she began, her voice steady and clear. I come on behalf of the United Earth Government to address your ultimatum regarding our colonies in the Arcturus sector. Krezak loomed over the human, his 3-meter frame casting her in shadow. There is nothing to address, human. Those worlds now fall within Sarfian expansion territory. You have 48 hours to evacuate before we begin planetary cleansing operations. Voss met his gaze unflinchingly. The colonies you're targeting are home to 17 million humans. Evacuation in 48 hours is physically impossible. Then they will perish, Thex interjected. A regrettable outcome, but the consequence of your species' failure to maintain adequate defensive capabilities. A subtle smile played at the corners of Voss's mouth. May I ask what intelligence you've gathered on our military assets? Admiral. The question caught Thex off guard. He glanced at the Grand Marshal before answering. Earth maintains a defensive fleet of approximately 300 vessels, primarily short-range interceptors and aging cruisers. Your most advanced weapons systems are phase-array cannons and rudimentary shield technology. You possess no super capital ships. And how did you acquire this intelligence? Voss pressed. Your participation in joint confederation exercises, trade agreements that list military export restrictions, monitoring of your communication networks, Krezak answered impatiently. We have been thorough, Commander Voss. Now will you relay our terms to your government or not? Voss clasped her hands behind her back. I'm authorized to inform you that Earth respectfully declines your ultimatum and requests the immediate withdrawal of all Sarfian forces from human territory. Silence fell over the War Council, followed by a wave of chittering laughter. You decline. Krezak's voice rose in disbelief. Perhaps I wasn't clear, human. We have positioned 17 battle groups throughout your colonial systems. The entire 7th Imperial Fleet sits at the edge of your home system. You have no defense against our forces. Voss nodded thoughtfully. May I share something about human history, Grand Marshal? Throughout our development on Earth, our nations practiced a strategy called strategic deception, appearing weak when strong, vulnerable when dangerous. Spare us your historical anecdotes. Thex snapped. When humanity first encountered alien life and joined the Galactic Confederation. Voss continued undeterred. We faced a critical decision. Should we reveal our true military capabilities and risk being perceived as a threat? Or should we present ourselves as a minor power while quietly preparing for any potential conflict? Krezak's inner eyelids narrowed. What game are you playing, Commander? No game, Grand Marshal. Simply explaining why your intelligence on Earth's military strength might be incomplete. At that moment, a young Sarfian officer burst into the council chamber, breaking all protocol. Grand Marshal, urgent communication from the 7th Fleet. This had better be important, Lieutenant, Krezak growled. The fleet reports. They report unknown vessels appearing throughout the system. Hundreds of them, materialized from nowhere. They've surrounded our positions. Voss pulled a small device from her pocket. With your permission, I'd like to establish a direct feed to what's happening. Before anyone could object, she activated the device, and the central holographic display shifted to show the space around the Sarfian 7th Fleet. Sleek, obsidian vessels had appeared in perfect formation around the Sarfian warships. Their design was unlike anything in known space. Angular, predatory, with no visible propulsion systems. What trickery is this? Krezak demanded. The Aurora-class stealth destroyers, Voss explained calmly, equipped with quantum displacement cloaking. They'd been deployed throughout your fleet positions for the past 3 weeks, completely undetected. Admiral Thex stared at the display in disbelief. Impossible. No species has perfected quantum displacement technology. We did, approximately 40 years ago, Voss replied, along with gravitational lensing shields, neutron cascade weaponry, and several other systems we felt prudent to keep confidential. On the display, more vessels were decloaking, larger ones this time, dwarfing even the Sarfian dreadnoughts. The Olympus-class carriers, Voss continued, each housing 300 atmospheric-capable strike craft. And those, she pointed to enormous ships emerging from behind Sarfian gas giants, are the Titan-class battleships. 6 kilometers in length, armed with singularity cannons capable of reducing planets to asteroid fields. For the first time in his decorated military career, Grand Marshal Krezak felt fear creep along his spine. You've been lying to the entire Confederation. Voss shook her head. Not lying, Grand Marshal. Exercising caution. Humanity's history is filled with conflicts triggered by fear of military capabilities. We decided not to repeat those mistakes on a galactic scale. The holographic display shifted again, now showing Sarfian territories across 3 spiral arms. In system after system, human vessels were decloaking, surrounding Sarfian military installations and colony worlds. We've had stealth observation posts in every Sarfian system for decades, Voss explained. The moment you declared your intentions toward our colonies, we activated our defensive protocols. This is an act of war, Thex sputtered. No, Admiral, Voss replied firmly. This is the prevention of one. You still have time to reconsider your ultimatum. Back on Earth, in the subterranean command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Fleet Admiral Mihai Chen watched the confrontation unfold through Voss's remote feed. Beside him, President Lydia Ochoa observed with grim satisfaction. Do you think they'll back down? She asked. Chen studied the tactical displays showing human forces achieving position superiority throughout Sarfian space. They're calculating their options now, but they've already lost, and they know it. Not a shot fired, Ochoa remarked, just as we hoped. The best victory is one achieved without battle, Chen quoted. Sun Tzu understood that over 3,000 years ago. On board the immutable decree, Grand Marshal Krezak was faced with the most difficult decision of his life. The humans had not only concealed their true military power, but had managed to position overwhelming forces throughout Sarfian territory without detection. If war came, it would not be the simple conquest he had planned, but a catastrophic conflict his empire might not survive. What are your terms, Commander Voss? He finally asked, voice thick with suppressed rage. Immediate withdrawal from human space, a non-aggression pact lasting 100 years, and your public acknowledgement of Earth's territorial sovereignty within the Galactic Confederation. You humiliate us. We protect our people, Grand Marshal, just as you would do for yours. Voss's expression softened slightly. We have no desire for Sarfian territory or resources. Once this crisis is resolved, we're prepared to discuss mutually beneficial trade agreements and technological exchange in non-military sectors. As Krezak considered his options, emergency reports flooded in from across Sarfian space. Wherever he looked, the humans had achieved complete tactical superiority without firing a single shot. The strategic deception had been absolute. The moment humans revealed their true military power would forever change the galaxy. And it had come not with apocalyptic destruction, but with the quiet unveiling of a storm that had gathered unseen for decades. I will consult with the Emperor, Krezak said finally, but I believe he will find your terms acceptable. Voss nodded once. A wise decision, Grand Marshal, for both our peoples. Unveiling the storm. Silence gripped the observation deck of the immutable decree as Grand Marshal Krezak awaited the Emperor's response. The massive view screen displayed the unthinkable, hundreds of human vessels surrounding the pride of the Sarfian fleet, weapons primed but unfired. Commander Ilara Voss stood calmly to one side, her posture relaxed despite the palpable tension. How did you hide all this? Admiral Thex finally asked, mandibles twitching with barely contained fury. The Confederation's mutual verification protocols were designed to detect conventional military buildups, Voss interjected. Our stealth program operates on principles outside standard detection parameters. The Grand Marshal's communication device chimed. With a stiff movement, he activated it, and the wizened face of Emperor Vorask XVI appeared, his exoskeletal crown gleaming under palace lights. I have reviewed the tactical data, Grand Marshal, the Emperor said, his voice crackling with age and authority. You will accept the human terms. Immediately. Krezak's throat sac deflated in shock. My Emperor. This is not a discussion, Grand Marshal. The humans could have annihilated our forces without warning. Instead, they chose restraint. We shall respond in kind. The transmission ended abruptly. Krezak turned to Voss, 7 centuries of Sarfian martial pride crumbling around him. The Sarfian Empire accepts your terms, Commander Voss. Admiral Thex slammed a clawed fist on the nearby tactical table. This is outrageous. We cannot submit to. Silence. Krezak roared. The Emperor has decided. Voss nodded respectfully. A wise decision, Grand Marshal. I'll relay this to Earth Command immediately. As Voss stepped away to communicate with her superiors, the Sarfian leaders huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. They could have destroyed us at any time, Thex whispered. Why reveal themselves only now? Because we forced their hand, Krezak replied bitterly. And in doing so, we've changed the balance of power throughout the galaxy. Across the void of space, in Earth's subterranean command center, President Oko watched the diplomatic feed with increasing relief. Beside her, Fleet Admiral Chen monitored the operational status of Earth's revealed forces. The Sarfians have agreed to our terms, Oksho announced to the roomful of military and civilian leaders. Withdrawal procedures have begun. A collective exhalation filled the command center. Decades of secrecy, trillions in clandestine funding, and countless sleepless nights had culminated in this moment. Humanity's greatest gamble paying off without a single life lost. And now comes the hard part, Chen said quietly. The rest of the galaxy will be reacting to this revelation within hours. Akko nodded grimly. Activate Diplomatic Protocol Omega-9. I want envoys dispatched to every Confederation member world immediately. We need to control the narrative before fear takes hold. The Confederation Assembly on neutral Axiom Prime erupted into chaos as news of the human military revelation spread. Representatives from 200 sapient species demanded explanations, threatened sanctions, or called for emergency security measures. At the center of the storm stood human ambassador Kai Nakamura, his weathered face betraying none of the anxiety he felt. "Distinguished representatives," he began, his amplified voice gradually quieting the massive chamber. "What you've witnessed today is not the unveiling of conquest, but the revelation of a defensive capability Earth has maintained for generations. At no point has humanity intended to use these technologies aggressively. Yet you deceived us all," thundered the Plovian delegate, his feathered crest standing rigid with indignation. "How can any species trust humans now?" Nakamura spread his hands in a gesture of openness. "We understand your concern. But consider human history, a story of nations that grew powerful, flaunted that power, and inevitably drew themselves into devastating conflicts. When we joined the galactic community, we faced a choice: repeat those mistakes on a cosmic scale or learn from them." On the edges of human space, the Sarfian withdrawal proceeded with military precision. Grand Marshal Krezak personally oversaw the operation, his innermost thoughts hidden behind a mask of professional detachment. As the massive Sarfian dreadnoughts engaged their drives and began the journey home, human vessels maintained their positions, weapons still primed. Commander Voss stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Thermopylae, finally decloaked after weeks of shadowing the Sarfian fleet. The sleek command center hummed with controlled activity as officers monitored the withdrawal. "Admiral Dresden," she called to the ship's commanding officer, "the Grand Marshal is requesting a direct channel." Dresden, a tall woman with piercing blue eyes and close-cropped gray hair, nodded. "Put him through." Krezak's imposing visage appeared on the main view screen. For a moment, he simply studied the human command center, taking in its advanced systems and professional crew. "Your deception was masterful, humans," he finally said. "The Sarfian Empire acknowledges its miscalculation." Dresden inclined her head slightly. "We take no pleasure in deception, Grand Marshal, but we would protect our people at any cost, as would you." "Indeed." Krezak's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Tell me, Admiral, how long could you have maintained this secret had we not forced your hand?" "Indefinitely," Dresden replied without hesitation. "Our Phantom fleet was designed to remain undetected for centuries if necessary." A sound that might have been a Sarfian chuckle emanated from Krezak. "Then we have done the galaxy a service by revealing you. Cold comfort, but comfort nonetheless." The transmission ended. Voss turned to Dresden with a questioning look. "He's right, you know," Dresden said quietly. "Everything changes now." Back on Earth, in the Oval Office of the presidential residence, Lydia Oko faced the assembled members of her cabinet. The mood was somber despite their diplomatic victory. "The Sarfians are withdrawing," she confirmed. "But as we predicted, the revelation of our true capabilities has sparked a galaxy-wide diplomatic crisis. The Confederation Security Council has called an emergency session." Defense Secretary Omar Riviera nodded gravely. "We're tracking increased military activity in 12 member systems. No direct threats yet, but they're clearly reassessing their strategic positions." "And the markets?" Ocho asked. Treasury Secretary Lynn grimaced. "Interstellar trade has slowed significantly. Our currency is down 17% against the Confederation credit. Many trading partners are hesitant to finalize pending agreements until they understand our new position." Ocho moved to the window, gazing out at the Washington skyline. "We knew this would happen. Now we implement Phase 2. Within hours, human diplomatic vessels departed Earth carrying something unprecedented: complete technical specifications for Earth's defensive technologies. As they arrived at the capitals of major Confederation powers, human ambassadors made identical offers: full technological sharing in exchange for mutual defense pacts. On Axiom Prime, Ambassador Nakamura unveiled the most ambitious proposal in Confederation history: the creation of a unified defensive alliance, with Earth's previously secret technologies serving as the foundation. Humanity concealed these advancements not to gain advantage, he explained to the still skeptical assembly, but to prevent an arms race. Now that circumstances have forced their revelation, we choose to share rather than monopolize. We propose the establishment of the Confederation Defense Initiative, a collective security framework that will protect all member worlds equally. The Plovian delegates' feathers had settled somewhat. And what does Earth gain from this? Generosity. The same thing every member gains, Nakamura replied. Security without isolation. Protection without the burden of maintaining overwhelming force alone. For centuries, humanity fought itself in increasingly destructive wars. When we unified and looked to the stars, we vowed never to repeat that cycle. In deep space, aboard the Sarfian flagship returning to Imperial territory, Grand Marshal Krezak reviewed quantum-encrypted reports from his intelligence services. The humans were offering their military technology to the entire Confederation. The strategic landscape was transforming by the hour. They're neutralizing their own advantage, Thex observed, bewilderment evident in his voice. After all the effort to develop and conceal these weapons, they're simply giving them away. Krezak's inner eyelids blinked slowly as understanding dawned. No, Admiral. They're doing something far more clever. By sharing their technology with everyone, they ensure no single power can use it against others. They're preventing the very wars they feared their weapons would cause. But the Emperor will never agree to join this defense initiative they're proposing, Thex protested. I believe he will, Krezak said quietly, because the alternative is isolation in an increasingly unified galaxy. The humans have outmaneuvered us yet again, not through strength of arms, but through strength of vision. Across the chamber, Grand Marshal Krezak approached with measured steps. He had traded his battle armor for formal diplomatic attire, though his imposing presence remained unchanged. Commander Voss, he greeted her with a formal bow. It seems we are to be allies now. As it should be, Grand Marshal, she replied. There are threats in this galaxy far greater than any of our civilizations. We'll face them better together. Krezak's mandibles twitched in what humans had come to recognize as a smile. The moment you revealed your true power, I thought it spelled the end of Sarfian influence. I never imagined it would instead herald the beginning of genuine galactic cooperation. Voss gazed out at the assembled representatives of countless worlds. That's the thing about humanity, Grand Marshal. We never simply unveil a storm. We harness it to build something better. As night fell on Axiom Prime, the newly unified species of the Confederation celebrated not the supremacy of any single power, but the dawn of a true interstellar community. The moment humans revealed their true military power had become something far more significant. The moment the galaxy revealed its true potential for peace.